Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Ahoy!
Morning.
Hey,
Morning, morning.
yes.
Hello.
Hello, good to have you all. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Come
No.
on, Discord.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
Well,
Nope.
the thing is, I don't think they can distinguish curvature from refraction. I don't think they would know how to even do that.
Well, they can't. Curvature is part of their refraction. 7/6 of the radius value absolutely includes the curvature. The radius value is part of their refraction.
Right.
So when they say refraction, they actually
Well, the thing
mean,
is, yeah.
when they say refraction, they actually mean
Well, what?
terrestrial refraction, which is 7/6 of radius. So yes, they're intrinsically linked.
Yeah. So when we say we don't ever observe curvature, we're saying that and talk to surveyors that go out and do these long distance observations, they couldn't even tell you how they distinguish curvature from refraction. They just say it's not accurate up to 3 miles, and then they have to do another measurement. But when we can see way farther than we should, we're asking, where are you guys seeing the curve? And I don't know how they answer that. They don't have an answer.
Well, they're utilising 7/6 of the radius in every example when they utilise this word that they've hijacked, which is refraction. Theirs is a geometric value in a mathematical reification as opposed to an actual value of optical inference that you might observe when you take a picture. Hey, Arwin, hey, father of a silent child. Good to have you both.
Hey, Nathan.
Good afternoon.
Nathan, don't they pop in here from what I've heard in the past, geodetics, which is already assuming a curve, but they never can prove it. They just assume it.
Oh yeah, when they reference their model in the first instance, if they're ever measuring anything, they'll be referencing a datum. But then from that point forward, they'll use, they won't actually measure anything curved, to keep it simple. It's all measured flat.
Exactly. Construction surveying is a lot different than geodetic, like actual long distance surveying. So when they're using curves, they're still trying to measure a horizontal level flat plane. That's what they're calculating for. But their radius for them even finding a curve is just based on the formula. And that formula over long distance, they attribute to the radius value, which is them just begging the question. But they never do long enough distance to even get any curvature, really.
Indeed, but what they're measuring is a tangent plane. So they're assuming their outcome. You already highlighted it, correct. They're begging the question. Assuming the outcome they're trying to prove.
Yeah, it's the different. Like, you just ask them how they distinguish curvature from refraction. They'll get into observations, especially geodetic. That's what they're doing. They're making observation and applying it to a formula that gives a radius that hasn't even been proven yet. We don't observe that. We observe much things way farther.
It's the same thing I said about navigators using the sextant, because what they do is they use a tangent plane because they do a localized measurement when it comes to surveying, right? But they say, oh, but the datum says we live on the curve, but since we don't ever have to measure that far where the curve actually represents itself, we just, accept it, but they never can measure. So the black swan proves that we don't live on a sphere, whereas in navigation, you can't get an angle unless you have two straight lines. So you got to have your plumb line, which is your zenith. That's your 12 o'clock noon right above you if there's a luminary there. And then, of course, the other line, which is the horizon, which is at sea level. And you got to get an angle. Without an angle, without a corner, you don't have a vertex. So there's no way to get a angle measurement if that bottom line is curving. So that's a localized flat Earth that they do the sextant on. But then they say, oh, but we know it's curved.
Well, that's why they don't use theodolites on boats. Like you're not going to be making. They'll typically use a sextant, which is an observation of like the stars in the sky in relation to the area around you. But for actual measuring curvature, I don't know where they're getting this stuff from, other than the formula.
Well, they're not. That's the point, because
Exactly.
the star could be 2,500 miles away from you, but you know by going to the book, that its zenith position is over there, 2,500 miles away. Then you draw your circle 2,500 miles out from that center of that zenith position, and you're somewhere in that circle. Well, that could only happen on a flat 2,500 miles. It can't be a curved 2,500 miles. You can't get an angle.
Right, so let's explain where they get it from. So they take that zenith, and then they assume that that's pointing to a pre-designated centre of a sphere, based on the datum they reference when they take their zenith measurement. So what is a zenith? Well, it's a line that is drawn from above your head, down through your head, down through the ground. Well, if you assume that that line is actually pointing towards the centre of a sphere, and then from that assumption you draw out a tangent plane, well, the plane bit is the bit that's being measured, flat, and the tangent bit is their presupposition that they've got a tangent to the horizon in the distance, hence tangent plane. The tangent bit is assumed by way of datum, and the plane bit, the flat bit, is what they actually encounter, because the Earth is obviously and observably and measurably flat.
And that's where they'll even tell you when they use theodolites and they do ground-based surveying observation of distances. They'll say at 3 miles it completely falls off because of all these different optical effects at long distances, like refraction. So they'll just say, oh, according to our formula, that's just where we can measure curve where our things just fall off and we can't measure any distance other than that, because it's all optical. It's all refractive in the medium of air and light scattering in every direction. It's hard to actually make these observations accurately.
Well, incorrect. So that's called a bait and switch. So you're describing optical phenomena, but what they actually have as their refraction is a geometric value, not an optical one.
Formula.
So terrestrial refraction is them invoking the R value that they've already assumed. 7/6 of the radius in standard form is their terrestrial quote-unquote refraction. Nothing to do with optics. Right. They have excluded optics from their mathematics. And the way they've done it is giving you targets in their mathematics that don't include perspective. That is to say, they attribute a full height of the item in feet and inches or meters. That's an actual size, when in reality things in the distance get smaller. Well, they don't account for an angular size of the target. Well, that means they remove the optical aspect of what you'd see in a picture and then attribute geometric values to it in the form of, in this instance, refraction, 7/6 of the radius.
Right, yeah.
One,
They never include like the focal point of where you're looking and how light is even getting there. It's refracting. We already understand that. But at certain distances, your eye is just not going to be useful. But until you get to even the focal point, it's all going to converge at a horizontal plane we understand in geometry. Like an X and Y axis of what planar geometry is. That's how we perceive things when we look at any observation. Now, what they do is they connect a non-Euclidean globe model mathematics to that, which is just a formula. They say, okay, we see this, but it's really a formula at this distance, at this rate, and there's the globe. It's just mathematics. It has nothing to do with what they're seeing.
Yeah, and do you know how they do that?
I was going to say they pull it out of their ass, but I don't know.
No, well, they pull it into side view. So when you describe what you see with your eyes, that'll be optics, and what you'd have in a photo, optics.
Right.
What they do in their maths is they turn it side on. So suddenly you're seeing yourself in the picture. So you see a stick man in their depiction looking at a target on the right-hand side of the page and the stickman on the left-hand side of the page. Effectively, you're seeing the side of your own head. Well, that means that you've removed all aspects of perspective from their mathematics. And again, as I've already detailed, give the target an actual size, feet and inches or meters, so it doesn't change with distance. Now, actual sizes don't change with distance, but the perception, the optics, the angular size does. But it's removed when you put the mathematics into a side-on view.
Right, and that's the thing that, like, here's the thing. I don't know. Listening, because you listen to the show every now and then. We kind of understand that it's what you call Muppet vision. When they try to get you convinced of this thing, they'll do like a side-on presentation. That side-on presentation is trying to reify like the ball. Like, here's where you would see that. But they get so frustrated when we talk about refraction and long distances because we know they're going to use a formula that presupposes and begs the question of a ball. And that's where it gets like, it's just not reality anymore.
Perfect. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Don't all go at once.
I'm waiting for Discord to pop into the.
No.
Come on, Discord.
There's a claim we have 15 degrees an hour deviation as the Earth rotates as a non-inertial reference frame underneath an inertial reference frame to give us this effect called coriolis deviation. That is their claim. Now that would involve Earth turning underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour, as I've just explained. That's the claim. But stuff doesn't drift away at 15 degrees an hour anywhere. Doesn't happen. We don't have this effect. The only asserted claims of this effect take place in the air for fractions of a second or a few seconds at the most, so that they can assert Earth turned underneath something that's left Earth, but in reality we don't observe it. And when you look into the effect, it's detailed incorrectly by all the citations. So when you go to things like the Met Office description, they'll have hurricanes being described as part of Coriolis effect, which they're not unless you're spinning around in them.
Well, okay, so Newton's first law of physics, right? Because they like everybody talks gravity all the time. But Newton's even first law of physics is that you have to be able to distinguish something in motion from something at rest. In the heliocentric model, they don't have anything at rest. Everything is moving all the time and different. So you don't really know anything. You just think that the speed is relative to your position. If only a flat earther can really say something is at rest versus something is in motion. That's only a flat earther could make that claim. When you believe in the heliocentric, whatever model, religion, they're saying everything's moving all the time and it always has been. So you can't really know anything. It's like trash.
Any science?
So then no 15-degree Earth-based Coriolis if everything's moving as once.
Yeah, because they don't know they don't know anything that's moving, because they don't know what's moving versus what's at rest, because they say everything is moving relative to your. It's like nonsense. They're telling you how much they don't know about what they're doing.
So then Neil deGrasse Tyson saying the football was affected by Earth turned underneath. So he doesn't know what he's talking about?
No, Earth just doesn't turn underneath a football, or a bullet, or a hot air balloon, or an aeroplane, or a drone, or anything else that leaves the ground.
Right.
The fact that they even disagree with each other.
So when Neil deGrasse Tyson says that, he's arguing both sides.
He's arguing the rhetoric as it's stated in the rhetoric. It is claimed Earth has Coriolis effect. That's what Neil deGrasse Tyson states. Now, he stated it by way of him tweeting out an example he claimed to see with his own eyes in the form of a football going through a goal because it was claimed Earth turned underneath to cause a deflection. So had our Earth not been turning underneath that ball, it wouldn't have gone through, right? That's the claim. Well, that claim involves Earth turning underneath the football when it leaves the Earth at 15 degrees an hour, precisely as they claim. So Neil deGrasse Tyson is simply towing the line. We then point out that if Earth turns underneath a football at 15 degrees an hour, then it turns underneath a drone. And you'd notice, because drones stay in the air a lot longer than footballs.
He can't make that claim.
That's it.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, he just doesn't know what he's talking about. Because if the Earth is moving relative to something, then everything's moving relative to each other. He's pretty much saying we can't know really much anything, and it's all moving all the time. Like, they don't have a basis in Newtonian physics to say what's at rest versus what's in motion. They can formula and hypothesize and theoretic all they want, but it's just, I don't know, it's not reality at all.
But that's what's broken about their model. Their model has to have Earth turned underneath things that are not attached to Earth, but in reality, we never see it. So they keep up the rhetoric.
They get radius and they get all these astrophysics is them calculating different speeds. They look at a star and they say, this goes this way, that goes that way. Let's try to make a formula that this them not knowing anything. And they'll even tell you that. Like, what's the Michio? He's saying you guys don't even realize how much we don't know. It's just we don't know really much of anything about it. They'll tell you.
Sure, but the rhetoric is still set. There's a claim that they've got Coriolis effect, and they don't. That's the bottom line here. Now, they, on the trench level, will attempt to obfuscate around it, make it our claim, tell us we don't understand Coriolis. All of the above. Doesn't change the fact that there is a claim that Earth spinning has Coriolis deflection, and it doesn't. That's the bottom line. Moving on, any scientific evidence of gravity?
Come on, Discord.
What's
One person
gravity?
in
What is
Discord.
gravity?
Oh, there
What's
you go.
gravity? What is gravity?
Yeah.
What is
Which
gravity?
hypothesis exactly? Where's the hypothesis for
The
gravity?
bending of a concept.
There isn't one. It takes place
Well, hold on.
in a world that isn't real.
They say gravity is things going down, but it's like a non-point because things go up too.
No, they used to.
go all different
No,
directions.
let's get that correct. 106 years ago, that claim that gravity was things going down, go boom boom, like bouncy balls poured in a fish tank, was replaced by Einsteinian bending space-time. That is what gravity is now. Bending space-time. Well, what is space-time? Well, it's a world that doesn't exist. And that will be disclaimed by those in the know on the globe side, like Rumpus, who will make it absolutely clear. For space isn't somewhere you can move around in. It's not somewhere that's real. Now, they can translate the claimed effects in mathematics into the 3D world, and then also claim that they can dilute that down into Newtonian mechanics. Well, no, they don't even sit in the same geometry. They're totally different. It's not the case. Even if it was, diluting it down into a 3 space that also cannot calculate the orbit of Mercury by disclosure of Rumpus yesterday, i.e. it's broken and doesn't work, is nigh on irrelevant, especially when it was replaced 106 years ago. So what they have now as gravity is the bending of space-time. It's alleged to be caused by the uneven distribution of mass, and it takes place in a world that is not real. That would be pseudo 4 space, length, breadth, depth, and time. This imaginary 4-dimensional time invented by Einstein. Not real, pseudo 4 space.
So it's a fairy tale.
Yeah, it's a little story that's explained in the language of mathematics, made up by a man called Einstein, about a world that doesn't exist. It has quite a lot in common with Narnia.
What if I had a good imagination?
Well, you guys gotta have a good imagination. Nathan, you and QE talking, I don't know if it was yesterday or a few days before, whenever, I don't know. You guys were talking about Rumpus and his field equations. And actually talking about mass attracting mass in a mathematical sense. He didn't know it. Everybody found out that he didn't know it. But why? I don't know of anybody that can know what he's talking about, Einstein, when he does his field equation in mathematics. It's such. Tesla called it just like fantasy. Tesla, even the guy who was a whatever, it's just all fantasy mathematics. But I don't know to this day anybody that can actually do any of those equations. So it's just nonsense, abstract.
Yeah, it's abstract. The ability to be able to perform an equation doesn't will it into reality.
Well, with math, everything is possible. You got to remember that.
What, like I can
Yeah,
describe
but
anything in
but
language?
not everything
Yeah,
is reality.
In language, I can describe almost anything, real or not real, fantasy or otherwise. Almost anything is possible with language. Well, maths is just a language.
It's
Well, I think
equivalent to your
even
Narnia.
the word.
It's equivalent to your Narnia story, because here we have C.S. Lewis writing the Narnia story with language, and here we got Einstein writing about something that's not real with calculations.
Language.
Yeah, mathematical language.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make it real.
Isn't that the point, though? Like, isn't the mathematics the description of how, like it's abstract for a reason. It's so otherworldly, like intentionally. It's philosophy. Like Newton described it as philosophy, but the modern like understanding of Einstein is mathematical make believe. Absolutely. I mean, they can't connect it to reality other than just applying a mathematical formula or an understanding. It's a religion. It's a doctrine theory.
If they could connect it to reality, all housekeeping questions can be answered by them in an instant.
We wouldn't be here at all. No.
Right.
Well, that was claimed to be another perceived benefit by Unitox Femu from a super chat yesterday. He's like, here's a benefit. If it wasn't for this nonsense, we wouldn't have flat Earth debate. So, hooray.
That actually might be more of a conspiracy than anything else. The globe itself is a conspiracy. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, by definition, it's a conspiracy. A lot of the participants in the conspiracy are unwitting, though. So...
I'll say
So
no.
are you saying
I know some
conspiracy
people that tell me
theory that's
about
been
it.
proven with hypotheses?
It's just call it a conspiracy theory, call it a mystic Meg theory, call it a Nostradamus theory, call it the heliocentric theory. It's not scientific. It's a just so story.
Hold on. Can we come back to that real quick? Because, like I said, I still remember about like 200 episodes on Nathan's show. Brenda always coming on saying we can't really know anything. Now, recently, and on the Discord channel here, we've been talking to Brenda, and she says science doesn't prove things. Now, that is a claim. Like you're saying that you can't know anything. That's it's pseudoscience, and this is for some reason a very global ball talking point. I don't know.
It's the old, how do you call it, when they say nothing, there's no objective truth. Are you 100% sure?
Solipsistic retreats. It's a solipsistic retreat.
It's epistemology.
Well,
yeah.
hold on. Let's call it like it is, because it's something we get accused of being. So, she is a science denier, then.
She'll tell you she is. Yeah. That's the weird part about it. She'll tell you it already.
So, a heliocentrist or a heliocentric apologist outright and overtly admits to being a science denier. Just ask her why we don't have scurvy anymore, and then ask her how they validated the cause of that effect. And if she says,
well,
"Oh,
that's
right,"
the point.
Pardon?
She's telling you she can't know anything, but she wants to use science when it works. But like, if we like, even using science would beg the question that we can know things. We can know things. That's why we use science. Science proves things. You're saying we can't really know anything. If you can't know anything, why are you debating? Why do you even have an opinion at all?
They talk out both sides of their mouths. So what they've done is they've utilised part of our understanding that we were trained in a very overt way when we were very young, that science is empirical and it proves things. So with that understanding moving forward, they utilise that as a magic trick and imply that they've proven things when they say the word science. As an example, you have people like Rumpus who will come and tell us all about how wonderful the Cavendish experiment is, and try and justify how it has independent and dependent variables. In other words, he's lending credence to this being proof for his claim of gravity, even though it isn't in any way, shape or form valid in scientific context. But he'll argue about it. Why? Well, because he's claiming that's a scientific proof of his claim. Now, the same man will simultaneously come here and tell us, quote, science doesn't prove things. But yet he's arguing about how he's got an independent and dependent variable and a viable experiment in the form of Cavendish, when he'll simultaneously tell you science doesn't prove things. Yeah, they haven't got science. Science does prove things. But when we show that what they have and claim is science doesn't prove anything and isn't science, they'll throw science under the bus because they didn't have it to begin with. They had pseudoscience. So to correct what they're actually saying, they're saying pseudoscience doesn't prove anything, and that's what I was offering. My pseudoscience Cavendish experiment didn't prove anything. That's the accurate summation of their doublespeak, speaking out of both sides of their mouth, claiming science doesn't prove things, while simultaneously claiming they've got experiments to prove gravity.
Well, according to Gem Panda, from what I understand, he says it may change 20 years from now. And then what does that mean with scurvy if they find out something else happens?
I can't divine the
What a
thoughts and deranged natterings of an idiot. I can't do that, I'm afraid. So I've got no reply to that.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Gem
He says
Panda
20 years from now they
yeah,
can come up with something else. But that's not science.
That's an appeal to the future fallacy.
That's correct. Well spotted.
Actually, yeah, true.
I'm glad you're here, father of a stolen child. Let's move on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
We could talk about meteorology. That's a hilarious one. It's like coriolis weather misconception.
Feel free.
Like when they say hurricanes in like maybe the southern, what is it? It's not hemisphere. Southern of the equator, we'll say. Like they're just gonna say things just do this in this direction. I don't know. And they believe it because like they can come up with some sort of idea mathematically that I don't know, we can think of it like this. But like it's not really accounting for anything because they're just saying that there's wind speeds that move directions. Like directions are just wind speed jet streams. It doesn't say anything about the shape of the earth. You guys are idiots. You got like half the time I don't think they even really want to debate these things, you know?
Well, they do.
And that's why it's a good question.
Well, no, they do. You've just left out part of what they would assert during their explanation for what you've described in terms of wind directions. They would insert the word hemisphere.
Well, hold on. Listen. Here's the thing. I know that they can't tell curvature from refraction, and I also know I know that they can't tell coriolis from jet streams or just wind jet. Like they don't know how to even account for these variables at all. Now you can account with it with mathematics, and you can get a rough understanding of holy shit. Maybe there's a whole bunch of things happening. But they can't differentiate those things. They'll just say wind is weird and it kind of goes over here. And here's our margin of error. It's just math, dude. It's always ever been math with these guys.
Sure, but you're missing what I'm saying. To make that into a globe claim, all they need to do is beg the question at the start of the statement. So usually these examples turn into an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. So in this case, we've got an example that can hold true because you've got wind directions, right? So that would normally take your Q statement. So we're going to have Q as something that can actually be observed or demonstrated to others or qualified in some way mathematically is what you're saying. But if my P statement is if Earth's a sphere, then Q, I'll see wind, blah, 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 wind directions. Doesn't matter what I say. But then I'll just affirm the consequent. Blah, 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 wind directions, therefore Earth's a sphere. But you've got to beg the question. Now, normally that won't come as overtly and formulated in the affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy so concisely. It'll normally come with a lot of hyperbole. But it will definitely come with a word like hemispheres to beg the question without most people noticing that they're just going to assume when they travel south and make an observation of a wind direction that they're doing it on a sphere. But most people won't pick up on that begging the question part of their argument.
Consider this, Nathan. There's so many different ways that you can reimagine what's happening. There's so many different ways that you can understand these things. The fact that we can acknowledge all the different variables is part of the skepticism of flat earthers saying, hey, guess what, Mr. Bali, I don't think you know even what you're talking about, and you can't even demonstrate where the hell you're coming from. These guys, if you ask them, as you guys have asked Rumpus many different times, They don't know why they believe it. They're saying it's spooky. I don't know. I was taught it. That's brainwashing. That's an absolute proof that they don't know what they're talking about. All you have to do is ask them, and that's why we appreciate asking simple questions, because they'll tell you everything that they've been told. But they can't think out of the box. They don't have any critical thought at all. They're just trash.
Can I comment on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it all depends who you're talking to. Like yesterday, I went to visit a friend, and he believes in flat Earth, but his wife, doesn't, or has heard us talk about it, but hasn't at all volunteered to be a part of any conversation. So we had some time, and we were talking about other things, and I made a comparison to flat Earth, and I went to the top 3 that we use here. Gas pressure without a container, the black swan, and Earth-based coriolis. So as I went through each argument in very simple terms, her head was nodding. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that all makes sense. And I said, so you see, Earth can't be a sphere because none of these things work. And these are very simple things anyone could ask because all it is a model. Now, if I had a ball trencher, well, the ball trencher would go into other parts, and they'd say, well, the atmosphere is spinning with the Earth, and that's refraction and all this stuff. And then, of course, because of the show, I'm able to answer those things. That's standard refraction. That's 7/6R. So where'd you get your R from if you can't see it in the first place? But that never happens with the normie. The normie hears the top 3 and nods their head every time. I've never had a normie not nod their head.
Fair enough. I've had plenty of normies not nod their head, but there we go.
Well, I don't know. I haven't, because I just asked them, well, how could it work? And they say, you know what? It makes total sense to me, but this is what they teach us. So what are we to believe? And so they're kind of stuck. Do they trust me? Do they trust the argument? Or do they trust what they grew up with? But they're nodding their head, as you say. Does it make sense to have gas pressure next to a vacuum and have that gas pressure stay rather than fill the available vacuum? They say no. They would just go into it. So they're nodding their head with the arguments. They're agreeing with us, but stuck in the fantasy of the heliocentric model.
Okay, I'll make a slight correction.
Well, someone out there knows, right? That's what most people believe. It doesn't make sense to them, but someone knows.
Well, someone has a formula. Yeah, you could probably think of anything mathematically.
No,
You could experience
John,
something crazy.
That's
and
appeal to
come up with
authority
it.
or appeal to intelligence or academia.
Yep.
that's a good point you bring up there, John, because when it goes there, you say, so if I go to someone and say, I have gas pressure next to a vacuum, he'd say how it would stay here and not fill the space, when we know that's 100% impossible. And then that's just total silence.
Well, silence is their best bet anyway, but they're not going to benefit from coming here and arguing with us. It's only going to cause them pain. So they need to stay away if they want to keep their faith.
Moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence for the distance to the sun. They can't even get our Earth's presupposed, begging the question, radius working on their model. How are they going to know the distance to the sun?
Well, hold on 1 sec. The funny thing is, if you talk to a glober who says they can say for sure 93 million miles, you ask them how they got that measurement. What math were you using to even come into that understanding? That's going to tell you about parallax of 5 different what they call minor planets. Now, one of these minor planets is called Clio. It's what they call a moon in orbit in our farthest solar system. Now, hear me out. They haven't made an observation of this in over 200 years. Now, if you ask them how they know these things and where they're coming up with the mathematics, you'll quickly realize that, holy shit, this is just an abstract belief of what they think the begging the question reified model actually is. But they don't know shit, especially the modern ones, because they're not doing any observations of this shit. They're just begging the question as much as they can. They're liars. They haven't done the math. The original math that got them their 93 million miles of anything related to the sun, trash. They cannot prove that, and they don't even know how.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Spherical Earth?
Presupposed spherical Earth, yeah.
Well, you added that part, right?
They had that part. That was my point earlier. Like with hemisphere.
Well, when they say, well, I don't know. Whoever says spherical Earth, I don't ever see that. I never experienced that. I don't even know anybody that knows that it's spherical. That's a belief, really. It's common, yeah. You'll hear about that, but these guys don't do science. So, like, okay, so what do you mean, core? What do you mean? Like every sort of these questions, I feel like you're gonna ask are gonna just beg the question mathematics.
Yeah, they're going to assume R. Any evidence of the R value?
Okay. Any evidence? You just proved it's math. Even asking that question proves it's just math.
Define evidence.
Evidence is proof.
Things you heard about.
I don't know. Evidence means proof.
No, nothing at all.
Evidence isn't proof. Science is proof. But you can find evidence for anything. You could find evidence of a unicorn if you really wanted to. Just Google search unicorn
This is the point of
evidence.
the housekeeping questions to show how stupid they are.
No, let's get the context right.
Isn't
If you search for evidence of unicorn, what you will find is evidence of the idea of a unicorn being documented, but you won't find evidence of a physical unicorn. There is no such thing. There is no evidence to be found, but you will find documented evidence of people describing unicorns, a fable creature that does not exist. So there's evidence of that, but not evidence of a physical unicorn, because there isn't one.
No, hold on. What I'm going to say is scientifically theoretical. So we can hypothesize with mathematics that unicorns exist.
That's correct.
I can give you the shape, the formula, the unicorn, the horn itself. I can give you the mathematics for that.
That's correct.
So theoretically, I could provide evidence of whatever
That's
I wanted
correct.
to.
Yes, that's correct.
So
In all
there's
instances,
evidence
yes.
for anything.
Yeah.
But a lot of empirical factuality to need the science. Mathematics is not science. That's
Well,
what they
it's not
depend
physical.
on. They depend on mathematic formulas.
Well,
It's not anything to do with reality.
Yes, that's physics. So when you're saying science, what you mean is physics. So that's the physical. So when you're talking about the physical and you're talking about the abstract and you're describing how you can calculate the density of the unicorn's horn or the length of time the digestion process of the unicorn would take, mathematically, that doesn't make them real. Now, what the process that you're describing that's been utilized as a magic trick is a process of reification. Now, if you take unicorn as a quasi example of the argument we're actually making here, which is that we live on a sphere flying through a vacuum and spinning, well then the unicorn has only to be presented on a TV screen with some presenter stroking it for you to make the reification part of your actualization of your reality, even though you've never seen one. Likewise, you can show people on high wire in a sky vacuum, and it's no different to someone strapping on a fake horn to a horse and calling it a unicorn, but telling you that they're real and then going into great detail about the maths of the digestion system and the mass of the unicorn horn. And, you know, therefore you've got every piece of the delusion created. A nice little hallucinatory form in the TV screen's depiction of this unicorn, and the delusion that's presented when you have the mathematics being reified by you because you don't see any reason why not to. It's not reification. I've seen it on TV.
Hold on. I get it. Math doesn't prove anything. Math is just like, here's how you can think about something. You know what? You could believe in Narnia, as we always like the meme about. You can believe in whatever you want, actually. It doesn't really matter. Mathematical formulas will probably account for that, just on a degree of getting some arbitrary. Hold on. Here's the thing. In mathematics, if you've ever gone through high school mathematics, they'll tell you about arbitrary and imaginary numbers. This is the crux, and this is where the heliocentric globe model rests all their pioneering science from mathematically. Astrophysics, meteorology, all on the understanding of, holy shit, I don't know, maybe. It's not actuality. They don't do these things. They're making up as they go. They're lying to you, absolutely.
Yeah, maths describes, it's a language. Now, it can describe things that do, and it can describe things that do not exist equally well. But it's just descriptions, abstract, not real. Now, physics, on the other hand, doesn't just describe, it explains. But it's explaining in the physical realm by way of physical manipulation of physical assumed causes of a physical effect that you're trying to study. That's physics. Shocking horror. Yeah, that's physics. Maths, on the other hand, isn't physics. It's not science, it's abstract. It's just describing things, it's just language. Let's move on.
So, okay,
go
yeah,
on.
so hold on. Let's just nail the coffin into this. Observations don't prove mathematics. The mathematics that they give us, right, with a radius, debunked. There's certain measures of curvature that formulaically we don't mathematically conclude. They're pulling it out of their ass, and they're employing you to believe that you don't know how to do it. They're expecting that you don't know how to do the math. That's what they're saying, because they don't find curvature, right? This is why I'm saying, like, you go on, for instance, here's an example. You go on Jose's, JG. This guy has a whole panel of
Have you had a
gloves
few
dedicated
drinks?
to misunderstanding flat Earth.
Let him ramble. It's all good. Don't worry, Neil. Feel free, carry on, Tiglaser.
Well, what I was saying is that if you go on to Glober channels, people go on to Jim Pandas. I don't. If you go on an honest channel like Jose JG, these guys are packed full with Globers that are purposely there to misunderstanding everything Flat Earth is saying. Now, these guys come up with the darnest, most mathematical abstractions you could ever. All you have to do is talk with them how they know anything. They'll tell you damn well science doesn't prove anything. I don't know. They're confused. They're actually retarded in some sense. It's not an insult, but they're confused. They're very dense. They don't know shit. All you have to do if you're a flat earther is just ask them about how much they don't fucking even know what's happening.
Try not to
Try
swear.
it yourself.
Just try not to swear. Few S words.
Well,
I can
isn't
cope with.
hold on. Okay, so let's recorrect that. The fun part of being a
Mind your
flat
tongue.
earther. Hold on 1 sec. The fun part of being a flat earther is that in 2021, you have to understand how much of this shit they've pulled out of their ass. That's the thing. You can censor that as much as they want, but Flat Earth has been here for a while, and it's based on logical skepticism, the critical analysis of what they're claiming versus actual reality. They don't do science. They'll tell you that science is just, it doesn't prove anything. They're liars. They're confused. They're arguing for the fact that they know that they can't know anything. These guys are wild. They should be banned. They should be muted every step of the way.
No, you need to be a bit more tolerant. That's the
What are you,
world at
Democrat?
large when presented with this conundrum.
I don't think you should tolerate scholars. Globers, I don't think you should hear
Good
these
one,
guys.
Neil.
Flat Earth can actually go on without these people. These guys are liars.
Indeed.
They're confused,
Indeed.
and they'll tell you about it.
Well, it will.
Yeah, they'll tell you all about it.
Hold on. You're reifying flat Earth. When you say flat Earth can go on without it, no, you can, personally, individually. Just get on with it, and you don't need to concern yourselves with these people. Right, now, I know that
You're
for some
saying
reason...
that I should consider the fact that people say it's a ball, and I'm telling you, no, actually, it doesn't require... If I experience anything empirically, I can make an observation and connect it with the geometry. I can say it's flat. Why can I say it's flat? Because I have a geometric understanding of what horizontal is. 90 degrees from the vertical. Mathematically, these guys are just pulling so much out of their ass that I don't care, Nathan, I don't care how much they talk to you about it. They're liars. If you were a Glober in 2021, you're an absolute liar, and you should know flat Earth enough to know that you're just making it up as you go.
Okay, I agree.
I don't like
I
to
agree.
hear
Hold
these
on.
guys.
Just wait.
You're
Right.
liars.
Okay, I agree. They're liars. Now, what would you do in any other circumstance if you found out that somebody you interacted with was a liar? What would you do?
I would express the absolute opinion that, holy shit, listen, there's a difference between believing and knowing. And if you experience when you know things, aka you just exist at all, you've probably walked out your front door and seen how flat the Earth actually presents itself to be.
So what
Now,
you're
the
saying
problem
is,
with globe
hold on.
is that
Hold
they
on.
say,
I don't want to know what the problem with it is. So you're saying that you would appeal to them to change their position. That's what you're saying. You do. That's how you deal with liars generally, is it?
No, I like to no. Listen, I don't think anybody's lying, especially if they're telling you about what they believe. Now, when they tell you what they
Oh,
believe,
come on.
it's a
Don't do
very
this. I've got to stop
different-
you, right? You've just spent 10 minutes babbling on about how they're liars. Now you're going to hold the opposite position. No, that's going to get frustrating for me real fast. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm appealing to you
let's
basis.
simplify.
Hold
Okay.
on, mate. Don't interrupt. I'm appealing to you on the basis that you've expressed it over and over again that you feel that they're liars. And I'm trying to lead you somewhere by saying, how would one ordinarily deal with a liar? And the where I was going with that was you'd distance yourself from that person. You wouldn't interact with that person. But clearly you are, and you're expressing your frustrations based on your choice to interact with them. Now, your choice
Well,
and your...
Nathan,
mate, Frank, hello? Your choice and your decision to interact with these people is your own. Equally, their choice to hold their belief that you are desperate to point out to them is equally their own. But you don't have to concern yourself with that.
That's listen, Nathan. You have to accept a certain amount of criticism of your show itself. When Flat Earth says, "Hey, Nathan, I think you're giving a little too much privilege of thought. You cannot think these things if you know enough about what people have observed."
Get you,
And
little
even
Nazi.
just the basic philosophy-
He is a Democrat.
Hold on. If you're attributing reality to mathematics, like a 3959 value of belief, you're just abstract completely. I can't even help. You don't even know that. You're just believing it. It's trash, man. I don't know
Why
how
do you
want
want
to
to
say
shut
it.
down?
It's
Yeah, we agree.
garbage.
Why do you
I
want
know what the name of
agree.
this show is going to be.
Hold on, we agree. Yes, that's correct. So now, next step. Do you appeal to them indefinitely to try and change their belief? That seems unreasonable. It's their belief. They're entitled to it. But you
That's
have the
right.
choice. You know, and you almost said, there's nothing I can do for you. Right, but you didn't quite say it. Right? Yeah, there's nothing you can do for them. So get on with your day. Enjoy the... well, it's drizzly here, but you know what I mean.
No, I mean, yeah. No, that's the thing. It's like, here's the thing. I agree with you, Nathan, absolutely. Here's the funny part of what it means to be a flat earther right now, 2021. We can acknowledge that people can believe whatever they want. Like, you can find evidence of pretty much anything. What matters is what convinces you. If I talk to you about flat Earth and I say, listen, there's no measurements of curvature. Here's a whole list of people that are flat earthers that go out and look for it. Nobody's found it. This isn't me pulling shit out of my ass. This is me a testament of the whole movement itself. We've done this.
What makes you
We
the
figured it out.
spokesman for flat earthers in 2021?
I'm defending the observations that flat earthers.
No,
have
you're
proven
defending
that
yours
mathematics-
personal, but not everyone's. Not every flat earther is going to agree the way you tie in your words.
Okay, to be fair, I let the baseless generalization fly just to hear the rest of it, but I will shout out James Richard just quickly. I think what Nathan is saying is if you hang out with a bunch of liars, you're going to be lied to. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying, James Richard. Thank you very much for the super chat. And yes.
No, that's going to be the rest of your life on this earth for sure, because people lie all the time. So what I'm saying is this show has always taken a position, and we're always debating the ballers. We're not caving into them. We're giving them a chance to prove their fantasy. They can't prove their fantasy. And then our 9 questions or 10 questions, whatever.
That's on it. Can I say
I
one
was
thing?
talking. I was talking. So when you say flat earthers in 2021, please don't include me, because you don't know what my 2021 flat earth position is.
Exactly.
Well, so far, listen.
And stop
Can
interrupting.
I say some flat? Okay, hold on. I don't think I'm gonna say anything you would disagree with. Right now,
I already
everything
have.
you described. Okay, we're dealing with people that
Hang
don't
on,
even
buddy.
want
Hang on,
science.
buddy. If you
don't
just,
want
I'm
curvature.
Now, look,
very
everyone
You
stop.
don't
Stop.
want-
Everyone stop. Right. We don't need to rumpus each other. I think what 10th man's looking for is just an acknowledgement that you're just expressing your opinion, and then you can feel free to continue rather than just generalizing him in with what you're saying. That's all he's asking for. If you can just say, okay, fine, we can move on.
Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with him, no,
Fine.
at all.
Fine. I overlooked your baseless generalization and didn't take it to heart and apply it to me. Other people have, and I can't let that lie until you acknowledge it. Now you have. Feel free to ramble on.
Cool. Oh, I'm not trying to ramble. I'm just trying. Like, listen, if we can know things, why can't we just know things? Why do we need to confuse ourselves? Like the people that believe in the globe will tell you science has improved things. That's imaginary. They're saying we can't know anything. Why are they even talking to us then? They should get the fuck out. If you don't want to debate what we can know,
try not to swear.
don't tell me all
Right,
about how
okay.
we can't know.
Try not to swear. Well, it depends on the circumstance. If they come here, specifically here, like right now, then they're here to share their pain and convince me of their belief, right? Right. But you're kind of telling me you want to do the same thing while we're saying, well, you can just walk away from these people. You don't necessarily have to involve yourself with them. Now, I've set up a show where they come to me. So the scenario is that's what I turn into entertainment and education for a profit.
Ah, I see.
But they come to me
Absolutely, yeah.
to convince me of their faith. You know, and that will hopefully alleviate themselves of some of the pain that they feel when they see that it's been challenged and there isn't any rebuttal to it. They might feel that they have one and they want to present it to me.
Let me ask you this. Don't you sense the fact that there's a little bit of peacefulness with Flat Earth when we realize that, listen, ask them how they came up with these measurements. Surely they measured observations at long distances. No. Half the people, unfortunately, Nathan Oakley, they're lying to you. They haven't done shit. We know this because we've talked to them longer than the 5 minutes that you did on your show. Right? So
you're saying the obvious. They come to the show. I don't even know where you're going with this. What are you trying to say?
I say they're liars, but when we get to a conclusion about that, you don't want to hear it.
But your whole show is about exposing the lies, and when they come, we expose it. And I don't know. It sounds like he wants to shut 90% of the world that believe in the globe and get rid of them. It doesn't make any sense. We have to help them by exposing the lies. So we got to hear the lies.
That's why he asked if he was a Democrat.
Help people. Well, listen, these guys have bought into something. This is the difference between believing and knowing. I don't respect flat earthers that believe shit. I will say, if you're a flat earther, you know shit. You know why you know it? Because you've experienced it. That's based on empirical fact.
Okay.
I could never tell you differently. But there's so many different people that believe in the globe that just use math.
Okay, we've heard that 2 or 3 times. So it sounds like you've run out of steam in terms of, what you wanted to put across, and you have.
Well,
and nobody's disagreeing with you.
Response.
Nobody's disagreeing with you. I hoped to have progressed it onto how this can benefit you as an individual, and it sounds like you're halfway there anyway.
Well, I don't know. It's a complicated question of talking about physics. Physics is when you learn more about physics, you realize it's not just downward forces, it's upward forces as well. Gases and solids and liquids and plasma.
God forbid we've never talked about that on this show while we debate ballers. I mean, this is such an obvious thing you're saying. I still don't know why you're on this train.
Because
it has so much more value than talking with globers. I don't know. The fact
and I appreciate it. Look, I appreciate that. And, at points, for whatever reason, people have got a bit agitated with you and you've got a bit defensive. So, don't worry about it. For whatever reason, some people's backs have been rubbed up the wrong way by you in a small, minor way that I don't want it to descend into rumpusing. And you're a little bit interruptative. It's that word. You interrupt a little bit, which is fine. We get it a lot. But by the same token, 10th man, don't necessarily take it that he's not on our side because he's being a little bit critical of the show or how we behave. He's dealing with his own cognitive reasoning, right? And he's expressing it verbally in a long stream, occasionally interrupting people while they're in their stream of thought. But it's all good. I'm happy.
God.
It's all good.
I just think there's a problem that show up. Maybe.
Hold on one sec. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I don't know if I could classify most people that believe in a globe as a liar. If it's anything, it's self-deception. I don't know. It's just part of faith. I don't think you can help them though, because they're going to believe what they want to believe.
That's correct, John. My cousin's a school teacher, and she is not a liar. This is just something she believes, and she trusts in no matter what I bring her.
Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container?
No.
Definitely not.
And yet there's a belief in people who come here to the trench level and assert that the sky is a vacuum. Who would have thought it?
Need that demonstration first.
Demonstration of what? You can't have gas pressure without a container.
I know. They can't demonstrate it. That's what I would like to see.
Hey, Redman, the opposite is true. They can't even show a vacuum without a container.
True too.
Whoa.
Oh, can I give you listen? Hold on. Can I give you guys a little bit of insight? Listen, we debate flat Earth all the time. Jose JG, one of his local favorites is a person named Blue Marble Science, and Blue Marble Science put the video out. The video that he pointed out was a response to how much flat Earth laughed at him. When we said, listen, dude, your pipe still says pressure, gas pressure. He said that, okay, yeah, you're going to have gas pressure with the container in his new video, but you're also going to have a force from above. Dude, the guy is as lost as he's ever been. The problem is he doesn't debate flat Earth at all. He'll never talk with a flat earther. The guy is confused. Yeah, that's the problem with him all in of itself. He doesn't debate this shit.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in live. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Primary streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.